Hi, John. It's nice to know that you're there. Yeah, it's nice to know that you're there as a familiar face. Kevin Rowley, hello. Kevin Rowley is a great friend of ours. He's very special to us, and thank you, Kevin, for being there. Hello, Ellen. It was great to see you at the other WonderZoo gig, the online one, and as I said, I would like to go for a coffee with you and talk about the poetry and the writing that you shared. Yeah, if anyone's got anything they want to say back, please do, because we'd like this to be as engaging with the audience as possible. My feelings right now are of nerves and discomfort. I'm trying to calm myself down. No. I push through these feelings to rise like a phoenix. My current shawl was actually made by some people raising money for a charity in Tibet. Me and Pete went to the Ocean Studios today in Royal William Yard, and outside the Ocean Studios gallery there was some people selling some like really lovely things made out of wool. So there's some bunting with knitted trees on them, so I bought a couple of them, and I got this crocheted square which I'm using as a shawl. So just thought I'd let you know. Thanks. And shout out to Stonehouse, Plymouth fashion designer Minsky, who made this hat. So welcome everyone. I think I'll start now. Yeah, so this is the WonderZoo garden gig that we've all been waiting for. So we've got William Telford, we've got Matt Thomas, we've got Slain McGogh Davey, myself Queen Chi, Gabby Markellis Temple, and the amazing sound technician Hippie with us today. And we'd all just like to share with you some spoken word. And I've been nominated to go first, so I'm just going to crack on. I wrote... Oh my god, that's just taken all the pain away instantly. This is why I've started preferring Little Pete, but we won't go into that. Okay, thank you Little Pete, and thank you artist Rosie Crean for creating this beautiful person right in front of me here, and thank you to the universe for providing me with this one to my right. Yeah, so before I go into it, I'd just like to tell everyone worldwide that this is the 1 year anniversary that me and Pete met at Plymouth Art Weekender at a WonderZoo gig where Pete was performing some spoken word, and he asked me to rub his leg during the performance, and I didn't know if he meant it, and he goes, "Go on then." So I was like, "All right." And he goes, "Would you like to rub my leg or something?" I was like, "Yes." He goes, "Go on then." So I give it a rub like that. And then I thought, yeah, he obviously fancies me. It turns out he did. So yeah, that's how we met 1 year ago. Okay, first poem. This was written quite a long time ago, like maybe 5 years ago or something. It's called Beast in Me. The beast in me rages silently, lurking, ready to terrify. Black plumes of smoke suffocating the person I thought I was. Sharp teeth tearing up the last remnants of the person I wasn't. The person I tried to be. What's left is the twisted core, a beating heart full of poison. Can I live with that? Can I live as an ogre in my high tower, snarling at the world below? How I would love to play, but who will stand me? Only the dark creatures that ooze this visceral repugnance. Those are the ones I must find. Finished. And it seems I have found these people in my life. These dark creatures. Yeah, so that's been good. WonderZoo crew has been great. This one's called Slightly Stalking You. Lately, I've been slightly stalking you, and why wouldn't I indulge my senses with all the things you do? I create dreams of you to escape from my hole, and imagine myself being in your world. The way that you look, the things that you say. Am I a voyeur to behave in this way? Do you mind me admiring the photos you display? Making sure I leave no trace, to avoid any chance of public disgrace. It feels like Russian roulette, like my luck will run out, and I'll make a mistake of finger to phone, clicking on something to make myself known. So I take a safe bet and quit while I'm ahead. I go and scroll down my newsfeed instead. This one's called Revenge. I've got your face in my hands, and I'm about to bite your nose off. For what you did, I will kill you, but only after much suffering. In fact, why kill you and let it end, when suffering longer will hurt you more? Your very existence pains me. That you should get away with it after all you've done, and die a hero in the eyes of others, is not an option. I will not let you get away with it. You and me will fight to the death, and if you win, I'll die in peace, no longer tormented by this bitter hatred. If I win, my torment will be taken out on you. But are you even worth my effort or time? Come to think of it, no. I'm done thinking about your sorry ass. Forget what I just said. I'll adopt an empathetic approach instead, and be genuinely happy that I'm not as effed up as you. And anyway, I don't really care that you ate all my vegan chocolate. I'll buy some more later. Thank you. That was when I was a vegan. And when you're a vegan, you become very precious about your chocolate, because vegan chocolate is quite hard to find in shops. This one is a recent one I've done. It's kind of just sort of like a stream of consciousness type thing called Silent Scream. Flying like a bird with arms spread out through a chaos of information, whirling of words spinning in circles, incoherent, exasperatingly trying to hold on to a solid rock of certainty. The torture of not knowing brings a pain that asks for numbness, a numbness brought on by switching off, the dying of a spark, a dumbness that numbs the pain. Incommunicado, mouth closed, silent and hidden. But how long can we remain prostrated, cowed in a state of hopelessness and fear? Wretched is the man without hope. Time is running out, one grain of sand at a time, falling through the hourglass to the other side of infinity. Civilization in collapse, we're all going to die. Enjoy the show as you burn alive. Fear at its highest and rising, and then you implode. Thank you. There was a little phase I went through a few years ago where I kind of like had a little bit of a play with doing poetry in the iambic pentameter, which some people might know is the way that people like Shakespeare and other people kind of put their rhyme into a 5-beat type of things. I'm not very good at explaining it, and I probably haven't even used the iambic pentameter correctly, but this is my little attempt at writing like Shakespeare in that kind of rhythm. It's called Gift. The greatest gift that has been given me cannot be weighed or tagged with sterling price. To fall in love with words and poetry, the value is of pure abundant grace. A spark did set alight my dormant heart. I never thought, I really did not know, that I would find such passion for the art, that voices in my mind would start to grow. On giant shoulders I do stand unfazed. Their artistry inspires my better self, and at their excellence I stand amazed. Their gifts contain more worth than all the wealth. Forward I will march with torch in hand, to master and revive a spellbound craft. So when I'm pushing daisies in the ground, you'll think of me and how I made you laugh. And that comes to the end of my set. Thank you everyone who was listening. Any comments appreciated. And now I shall introduce my beloved partner, Slane McGogh Davey.
It's only because it's easier because I'm on the older chair. We are socially distancing in the garden. We're quite far away from each other. I think William's about a mile away. Yeah, we're bubbled. Yeah, they're outcast. And a minute ago, anyway, William was going to fall through the floor. And, it don't really matter. It's just part of WonderZoo for you. This has got to be our smallest gig of all time, I must admit. But it's quite fun. And I also need Chi as well, because Chi's going to play the drums and a musical instrument too. But I'll read another one while she sets up before we do the musical bit. And just get my work together. So I thought, before I start the musical pieces, I thought I'd read one that I wrote to Chi within a few months of meeting each other. We did a performance together at Corfu in Stonehouse. So this is for Chi. I wrote it then, it still feels the same today. To Chi, to the sights of the end and the passageway that unfolds on the leaves that make up a sunny, cold, rainy winter day. We walk arm in arm like sisters and brothers and lovers. As the moon fades out of sight and only the shadows of a former self look out across death's door, we laugh and cry in these games of life. Liberty, hold arm, one arm in arm, knowing you are my lover till death comes calling. Take my hat away and leave me naked like a newborn baby. Till then I'll call you my best friend, my comrade in arms. Till then, till death comes calling and the flowers die, you are the calling card that gives me faith in humanity. In our hours of need, till then you are my Valentine's Day. Till then death takes us apart. To Chi. Oh, look at that! Happy anniversary. In a few years' time, it won't be so nice like this. We'll be just hating each other, probably. That's what normally happens, I think. Yeah. Then we'll be doing poems about why we hate each other. To me. All right. So, are you ready? 3 6 5 Lesley. So this next one is. Oh, thank you, Kev. Yeah, thank you. I will write you a love poem. Don't worry. At some point, yeah. I've got to do these next two pieces of sort of musical theatre pieces are done with Chi that we've performed live in the street for our friends Nudge at various different times. And this piece of 3 Feet High and Rising is basically different singles that made the chart. Doesn't mean I like every single, so don't believe I do. I just like the names of the titles, so it formed a poem and a musical bit. You ready? When did I wake up? My generation never did. To get the funk out more than words is needed to clear the air. Just like paradise, there's no sweet shoulder mine around here. Roof, food and family, opportunities that never really happened. It was a sense of shame, the evil destruction. Don't fear the reaper, there's only one way of life. It's called the final countdown. To light my fire like my personal Jesus on New Year's Day, like holiday in the sun. Too drunk to fuck. Oh no, a naughty word. It's holidays in the sun to pay the ferryman. It's a sin. It's a sin. It's one way of life. Babylon's burning. Wake up and smell the coffee. Hold me in your arms. I believe in a thing called love. There's a blaze of glory and head like a hole, and a super trooper to dance in the night away. Bridge over troubled water in something inside so strong. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Can I play with madness with the evil that men do? Jump around as the summer is 69. The blackbird flies away, staying alive. You should be dancing to a dancing queen. Oh, fly away and take away the pain. Let's start over and get the funk out. The sun always shines on TV. The sun always takes me on. And just so the albums didn't feel like out of place, I did an album one. But I also did this. I did an album review, 100 albums that I like that appeared on Facebook. For some reason, during lockdown, I decided to do this because I was so bored out of my head. I wrote like big essays around it, and then loads of people followed it. And I called it Lesley because she was my biggest fan, who I've become friends with, and she's a poet as well. So each bit of this is an album title from that series. So it's called Lesley. An American prayer signing off with purple rain, diesel and dust under a blood red sky. Peace sells, but who is absolutely buying? Mod cons and license to ill and appetite for destruction. Meat is murder. Yes, meat is murder. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back with rage against the machine. In search of space with a weapon called the word, new boots and panties. Some girls do wander by mistake with the $1 billion babies. Welcome to the pleasure dome. Power, lies, and corruption. Never mind the pictures of starving children. Ah! For the jilted generation live through this like a prayer, business as usual on a yellow brick road in the Hotel California. Those jagged little pills at the doors of reception, doors of reception, doors of reception. The magic band wear white socks. I have no socks tonight. Feeding the 5,000, the rotten vegetables, and the trout mask of leftovism. Rafter's revenge. Under American skies, a misplaced childhood, and sketches of Spain and gypsy punks, the burning, the prophets of rage. Never mind the bollocks or never mind the ballots. Fire, water, soul. Germ-free, transform, 3 years, 5 months, 2 days, a country still town. Bricks are heavy, so strong. Among the living. Dare, listen to the Planet Apes soundtrack. It's from God. It's like a soul sonic planet rock. A night at the opera. Hysteria, please. Harvest, the freewheeling first public issue of Seasons of the Abyss. It's special like that Lost Boys soundtrack. Black Sabbath and Dragonfly living on the tapestry. Living on the tapestry. And I completely lost the other lyrics. So I'm just going to go out with just like a sex machine. Just like a sex machine. Because I forgot the rest of the lyrics, but who fucking cares? Just like a sex machine. Finally, I actually found the lyrics here. Here they are, hidden. I tell you, a squirrel hid the lyrics from me. I tell you, a squirrel done it. Right, this next one's called Young Lovers Love. I wrote this for Nudge Community Builders. It's like taking myself back in time to the Blitz. It's all fantasy, it's not real, but it might be real because I think I did go back to the Blitz because I think I was in a TARDIS called with the Doctor. I'd love to be the Doctor, by the way. Anyone out there who thinks I'm good enough, need another Doctor? I'm happy to be the Doctor. Yeah, and I would want William Telford to be my sidekick. Yeah. This is called Young Lovers Love. I met a girl with jet black hair under the Palace Theatre, just like this girl with jet black hair. Lauren Hardy sketching a film sketch. Curtain calls and ice cream melts, but a kiss is more delicious than a strawberry ice cream. As we kissed at the bus stop. Can I just give you a kiss, please? Thank you. Altogether, I still don't recall her name, the girl with the jet black hair under the Palace Theatre. I still don't recall her name, the girl with the jet black hair under the Palace Theatre. Her dress shone like a searchlight, like that searchlight is on me right now. Louder than any bomb, sweeter than any death, greater than any birth, more surreal than death itself. If only love could be as good as one night, one passion, and one kiss. Can I have a kiss, please? Thank you. Young lovers running under the sky in starlight as the curfew sounded and the air raid sounded. Love is better than any war, but the curtain does call. And I still don't recall her name, the girl with the jet black hair, like this girl with the jet black hair, under the Palace Theatre. Laughter and tears, fun-filled evenings, a shadow of its former self, a ghost and a memory long lost, boarded up and broken down, a shadow of its past glory. But I cry mostly not for the Palace Theatre, not for those memories of the Palace Theatre and the fun I had, but for the sweet memories of a girl with the jet black hair, who had lips like pillars and a tongue like a snake. A tongue like a snake. Boarded the 42 bus, she did. She boarded the 42 bus. That was the end of that love story. I'll do one more now, and then I'll pass the mic around. I think everyone's going to do like 2 sets, so I don't want to read everything. This is called Man at a Time. I was in Salt Ash, and I was like in this coffee shop, and I was reading my book. So everywhere I go, I've got a book in my bag. And this bloke came up to me and said, "I never see anyone read books anymore." And I said, "Well, I don't own a phone." And he went and bought me a cup of tea, and that's what it's about. And he said, "You're like a man at a time." So I wrote a poem called Man at a Time. Drop in the ocean of time, nothing feels the same. Open that bottle and let the fears watch over you. It's nothing, just a man at a time. You're still there listening, and you close that door and you lock those locks. And I don't really care, 'cause nothing really helps. The sun never shines today through the eyes of lost memories and lost space and time that fades to black. I soon join you in the firefly of the grave. I wish sometimes I was dead and back on the gravy train of life, rich in herbs and spices that makes life worth living well, instead of high noon. So don't let me pass you by when I get drunk on life. And the moon is now the sun forever lonely, is like a kiss, a strawberry kiss, maybe a chocolate kiss, but a kiss of some kind that melts away my last drops of blood. That's rock and roll, and it's better to burn out than fade away like the bridges of old. I am just a man out of time. And I've made such a mess. I'm like the terrible school kid. I just got to pick up all my work. It's so unprofessional. Do you know what I mean? Look at how professional I am. No, because I've got to read again later, and it took me forever to find all these sheets they're on. Yeah. Ah, Matt is. Yeah. Well, I'll pass you to introduce Matt Thomas.
So next up, we've got our wonderful writer Matt Thomas, who is also founder alongside his wife Nick of Ray in Adelaide Street, which is the Royal Adelaide Art and Yoga Space. And Matt's been massively involved in the art scene in Plymouth for a long time, and has supported WonderZoo for a long time. So, on behalf of the WonderZoo crew, we'd like to say thank you to Matt Thomas for all the help and support and encouragement over the years. I'll now hand over. So this is the legendary Matt Thomas.
Good evening. I gave my roadie the night off, so I'm going to have to hold this mic on my own. I'm wearing long trousers for the first time since March. And I'm wearing shoes as well, and my shoes I have not been worn for so long they're dusty. And everybody here in the room has heard this already because I said it earlier, and I'm old enough now that I just repeat myself until people smile and nod and bring me a cup of tea and a biscuit. Before I was getting ready to come down here, and thanks, hippie. And I cracked my head on the door frame, the greenhouse at my house, and I'm old enough and bald enough now that when I crack my head on the door frame, I break the skin, and it's just terrible. And as I was, hopefully the camera can't pan or anything. I mean, if I went and stood over there and showed it right at you. Anyway, Kim, I was trying to log in to Facebook on my phone, and I couldn't because that's the way it goes. Hi, Ellen. Good to hear from you and see you. I can't see you, but at some point I will. As many of you will know, some of the who are listening and who are here, of course, some of the poems that I write, I borrow the words from other texts and sort of collage them together. And I've got a piece that actually goes with a drone, so I could just skip to that. Right on. And I was talking Kim, who is watching the stream right now, and hopefully Jason is there as well, because he said that one of my collage poems is his favorite. Now, I'm going to probably read that one a little bit later, but because I wanted to have new stuff for tonight, and I frantically waited until the last minute to do my homework, I have a newfound poem, and it comes from Destination Wickenburg. Destination Wickenburg is the tourist magazine from Wickenburg, Arizona, which is a sort of a cowboy town in Arizona. And the reason that I have this is that I've been there because my uncle lives in Arizona. And there are lots of antique shops and lots of retired people because the air is dry and it's warm in the summertime, and lots of cowboy-themed stuff. Anyway, this piece, all of the text for this piece comes from that. And this is weird because that's much more explaining than I ever do. So perhaps this is a new phase for me. This is called, I'll put that down. This is called Our Mission Statement. Our mission statement. We disconnect. We can. We can fish. We are local. We'll come to you. Number 1. Experience the good life at the downtown traffic light after the parade by appointment. Bring your horse. Bring our famous driftwood horse. Bring your skulls and grandmas. Number 2. We offer a unique place, a unique experience, an eclectic collection, most unique and eclectic. A place like home. Number 3. We offer costumes for all. Number 4. We offer 3 ways to get 2 delicious meals daily, 7 days a week each month. First Thursday, second Saturday, Tuesdays, closed Monday. Number 5. Vintage with today's technology. Innovative fossils. We offer both of these. And postcards too, 200,000 plus postcards. Number 6. Wound care. Number 7. Larger, pleasant, most exciting, most Western, most consistent, stunning, gorgeous, fresh, spectacular, gently used, tenacious, oldest, brand new, indoor and outdoor, high speed. Number 8. We offer one person since 1962. Number 9. We offer rides on the Doom Mobile, fresh daily. Those who find it enjoy beautiful scenery. Number 10. Burritos. Number 11. We offer information and instructions. We're the group who produces the information and instructions with today's technology. Number 12. Make the perfect selection. Reserve your complimentary consultation today. Stop in or call. Bring lawn chairs. Our friendly, knowledgeable staff will help. Like us on Facebook. A must-see. Thank you. On the subject of wanting to write new things, I desperately wanted to. This whole situation, I haven't responded well. And as I say, I left my homework till the last minute, even though I've known I was going to be doing this for some time. I do have a new piece. It's probably a draft. And this is a reasonably sympathetic crowd. So we'll just crack on and see how it goes. It's a bit long, which is another thing I don't do very often. So I'll do this, and then maybe a really short one, and then save the others for later. But let's crack on with this. This is my attempt at sort of dealing with current events, sort of. It's called Inchoate Rage, or Shards, Current Events, What the Hell, or Not Howl. Sitting at my desk again today for what seems like the millionth day in a row, socially distant, even from myself at this point, kicked out of my own bubble. That's a bit sad. Wearing holes in the carpet under the feet of the chair, bench, stool really, that I sit on every day for hours. The seat that's become like a limb, like an island. Trying to write about all of this everything at once. The pandemic, the election, climate change, middle age, indecision. But there are too many words, also not enough words, and also not enough time to put them in the right order, or any order. So I'd sit and stare at the screen, or lie on the floor and stare at the ceiling and shout at myself in my mind, or drag out all of the CDs and go through them twice looking for something to listen to that will be the right combination of soothing and invigorating and inspiring. I settle on PJ Harvey. Let England Shake makes me dance around the room, the house. Then I change. The freewheelin' Bob Dylan makes me cry. Makes me think about protest music. Makes me think about making a playlist of protest songs. Makes me think about how old I am and how old that song is, and how much some things don't change even while everything's changing. Makes me vow to never be that middle-aged guy pontificating about how there's no good protest music now, no good music at all anymore, and what's the matter with these millennials and their auto-tune? What's the matter with kids today? It was all so much better in my day when people knew how to write a song, but it was also harder, so much harder, because we had no mobile phones and no tablets and no Snapchat. We had to call people on a landline or just go to their house to see if they were home if we wanted to go to the mall to play Pac-Man. And we had to walk miles to school in the snow, and don't get me started on politics or religion or science or snowboarding or tongue, eyebrow, God knows what piercing, blah, 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 blah. I vow to never be that guy, because I type with guys like that on the Facebook, and sometimes it makes me want to chew my face off. I vow to never be that guy because I don't know everything. Because being a middle-aged white guy doesn't automatically make me write about popular music, or politics, or anything else. Hell, I barely know anything. But, of course, I digress. At this point, I'm still trying to figure out how to express linguistically, with a modicum of grace, the state of the crowded, panicky, not socially distanced mob inside my head. Is that me, hippie? That's okay. I'll try and not do that. Just busting up my own act. It's really terrible. Heckling yourself. That's pretty sad, isn't it? I'm still trying to figure out how to express linguistically, with a modicum of grace, the state of the crowded, panicky, not socially distanced mob inside my head, silently screaming with its many hands over its many ears. The phrase inchoate rage comes to mind, and I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere once, and then I have to look inchoate up on the internet and listen to someone pronounce it so that when I read this mess out loud later, or perform it, to use the technical term, I don't sound like a dumbass. It's a great and accurate phrase, but two words do not often a poem make, Or do they? Maybe I should have just written inchoate rage and left it at that. On the subject of phrases I've cribbed from other sources, here's another one I like. They desire an escape from confusion. It comes from an article I read some time ago about the alt-right or Gamergate or incels or men's rights advocacy groups or some other annoying, potentially dangerous subculture of whiny man babies. And the confusion they are hoping to escape from was the confusion of a too quickly changing world beyond all of their ability to recognize it or cope. And frankly, who doesn't desire an escape from that? Where am I? Aha. Hell, I desire an escape from confusion. I've built a small, insignificant career on artistic output devoted to the desire for an escape from confusion. But I don't desire it enough to allow myself to be radicalized by the spray-tanned neo-fascist, well, the pretty much outright dictionary definition of fascism, fascist, blowhard in the White House, or some jerk on the internet who will teach me to have game so I can date rape hot chicks I stalk in bars, or Milo Yiannopoulos. I know, he's so yesterday. What can I say? I'm old, I type slow, I don't use Twitter very much or very well, it takes me a while to catch up. Did I mention how much snow I had to slog through to get to school when I was a kid, and how I only had an AM radio and listened to a top 40 station and lost my place and liked it because that's all there was? There was no Spotify, blah, 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 blah. Speaking of the spray-tanned fascist blowhard in the White House, who is, don't get me wrong, a very dangerous man, I'm still trying to add something to inchoate rage to flesh out this poem about how I'm coping with current events. Not very well. Think ostrich plus nihilism. And I got this far regarding him and his MAGA hat wearing, camo pants and American flag bikini made in China, but fuck China, they stole our jobs, flooded our jobless cities with cheap fentanyl, then sicked the COVID on us, the fuckers. Lock them up, lock her up, fill her seat, fill my shorts, followers. Holy rollers, rolling coal, God, guns, and diesel won't save your souls. Mud, spit, and hate pouring out of your holes. And I get that far when the inchoate rage kicks in and it's all downhill. Pretty soon, I'm lying on the floor staring at the ceiling, or playing video games, or rearranging all the tissue paper in my box of tissue paper. Don't ask, and if you don't think tissue paper is manly, fuck you. Or making a protest music playlist on Spotify. Then I think about Howl, which I've never read all the way through, though by now I should have. I know. Don't judge. It's reading Howl, I imagine, is like listening to all 17 minutes of the Velvet Sister Ray. It has to be done, but it has to be worked up to, approached with caution. And I am working up to it, really. But at this moment, this sinister and hostile moment, it's hard to get past the first line, and I'm going to just bust intellectual property rights right now. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked. Seems fitting. I don't feel qualified to analyze the rate of decay of the best minds of my generation, or even identify them, though I know they're out there doing what they can. But still, there's a spray-tanned fascist blowhard in the White House telling Americans to drink bleach to cure themselves of the COVID, and raging about fake news while marketing a breathtaking number of breathtaking falsehoods, some 20,000 and counting. But who's counting? The current outrageous outrage is the most outrageous outrage yet. Nothing could be more outrageous until tomorrow's outrageous outrage. It's impossible to keep up. We're numb. When is the anesthetic going to kick in? When is the anesthetic going to wear off? And his supporters still shout, "Lock her up." Do they still mean Clinton? Ilhan Omar, all women walk the streets weighed down by their AR-15s, their MAGA hats, and their liberty, ready to out anyone wearing a mask as a libtard snowflake pussy who believes the hoax of the COVID, ready to make America great again, or keep America great, or whatever it is. They want 4 more years of it. So something went wrong. As far as mediocre minds are concerned, in 1984, I was writing bad poetry about Reagan pressing the button in his sleep and killing us all in accidental World War III, while safe in a cocoon of suburban teenage nihilism and duct-taped Converse high tops as a lifestyle choice. While I was doing that, the kindling under the bonfire that is 2020 was clearly carefully being arranged. And I can see that now. Then I have to look up Howl on the internet because if I'm going to reference it, I should at least read the Wikipedia entry. Did I mention that not only was there no Wikipedia when I was a kid, there was no internet, so if we wanted to know about something, we would have to read a book or ask our dad, who would just make it up if he didn't know, which led to some awkward scenes later on. But I digress. You kids today, blah, 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 blah. And while I'm reading about Ginsberg's peyote visions, I see all the other windows on my browser open to various articles about the coming election disaster, and I haven't looked at the coronavirus tracker website yet, and I should check emails, and that's right, inchoate rage. So, to distract myself, I put my hands in my pockets and find a red Super Ball I picked up from the pavement and some conkers and my mask, which is made from a piece of a shirt that I had to retire a few months ago after 15 years. I'm glad my mask has been made from that shirt because it was my favorite shirt, which makes me think of Haircut 100. Then I'm on YouTube. Then I'm reading Nick Hayward's Wikipedia entry. And I think you can see where this is going. Thank you. I will close this first set with something very short. This is also a found poem that I made up out of text that I got from a little supermarket ad circular. And it goes like this. Instant sunflower, breezy, exciting, crafted from the ultimate summer, packs away into deep, scented time of day with intense need, permanent like honey, indirect like bells. And I will see you again a little while later. Thank you, everybody.
Mic's back on. Just been thoroughly disinfected there. Thank you so much, Matt Thomas, for your beautiful words. And yeah, I love getting lost in your train of thought. Very entertaining. Next up, we have the beautiful, amazing, intelligent, multilinguist, translator, artist, writer, and best friend to Pete Davey, mother, and just, no. She kind of treats him as though she were, but...
When I had my stroke, right, and I went and secretly taught to the students still when I wasn't even meant to be in the school, yeah, Gabby threatened to take my PC away, so I had to behave. It's true.
Never, don't mess with Gabby. That's basically the message. So, so I'll hand over to Gabby Marcellus Temple, who is going to share with us some of her poetry. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you, Chi. we are bubbled, so I can thwack him if I need to. Right. Okay, the first one I'm going to read tonight is it's a slightly weird one. It's about my sister's dad, who's not my dad. Well, he's not anyone's dad because he died a couple of weeks ago, which is why I wrote a poem about him. So this is called Ken. Pipe cleaners twisting in the wind, above the highwayman's hill where Cornishmen trapped a small boy and his mother sobbing in the tower. There we stood, us two. You were nothing to me, and I was less than nothing to you. We had one foot in the east and the other in the west, and the clocks ran on around us. Perhaps you were mad, heaped up shoes and empty beer cans cast about your mother's empty house. The electric bill was never paid. No one should ever love her, yet you did, after all she put you through. Not us. We had no one but each other. 10 long years until you were beaten, the phone ripped out from the wall. You slipped one day getting out of the bath. A life turned frail, damaged, older and alone. You told me about the place where the bombs had never fallen. Told me about the place where you always wished you were. You laughed when you heard I'd lost my accent and I sounded just like you. You're out of her reach now, and so am I. We've both moved on to freedom. And I've just realised I'm going to have to get Pete to hold my mic while I look for another poem. This is a very short poem which I wrote as part of a series dealing with domestic violence. Shit happens. Shit happens. Out the corner of her square, painted mouth, with all those pointed yellow teeth, pushing molten grief into the cracks, this painted mask. We're always more beautiful when we're broken, and you won't be waiting for me when I come home.
I feel like I'm the butler.
Synesthetic. There's an itching here, a flicker in the skin. It tricks me into believing that the flashing blue lights could be smaller this time. Infamous yellow glare from that crack between her thighs, greenish tinged on skin and bone made beautiful. He tells me wasted shins and purple bruises are the wrong sort of colour to show a child. But his proxy arguments no longer veil my grey-blue eyes.
Can I have a clap for the butler?
This piece is about the area of Plymouth we're sitting in now. This is called Stonehouse. I took him to see the place where I was nearly arrested for unreasonably displaying my grief and for casting silver into the waves 3 times in one day. The dark was full of flashing lights, and he didn't know where we were or why they flashed. He couldn't say where not to go, who not to go there with. They were holding my clothes when empty sherry bottles made me run that gauntlet once. Maybe it was the necromancers who made it that way around here. Or maybe it's gentrification.
Clap for the butler.
The final poem I'm going to read tonight is, it was a commission from the War Graves Commission. And this was a response to the sculpture which toured the UK, which was up on the Hoe, of the wave of poppies coming down from the War Memorial. And I related it to the experiences of my own family in the First World War. It's called Wave. This is an accusatory finger. It's visceral. It bleeds. Wet stone can't know who you were. You a regular man, man not from here, man not of woman born. These names are handwritten, not carved in stone. We feel, we bleed, we breed again and again and again. One Hamish is gone, 2 Hamishes born, both so alike, but this one not to die and not to mourn. She owed them money when he died, so to pay her back, they carved his name in stone and told her what she had to do. Honour, glorify, remember the dead. But she held him dear, held his daughter in her womb, her blood and flesh, his flesh and blood, our flesh and blood. They threw her onto the street to drink and fight and love and fear, to fear no more. Such damage done, such humanity, all oozing out through polished stone, all broken hearts and breaking bones, and all those nights with you, alone. Our blood is tainted now, a crimson sea turned foul on the tide. Flesh of my flesh, knitted mirror image in the same rotten cradle, then kicked and beaten into guns and bombs and broken glass. Were you in Kensington today? Should I call you darling?
I don't know either. I quickly clean it before I'll pass it here a minute. G's coming on to introduce the next wonderful artist.
Thank you so much, Gabby, Mark Ellis Temple. Our final performer is the amazing William Telford. William actually has a book that's available to buy on lulu.com. The name of the book is
How Love Works.
How Love Works. So, yeah, we would love to have a copy of this book, and I'm sure that me and Pete are going to get one at some point. William is very much influenced by The Clash. Is that true? That was okay. Yeah, that was something Pete told me about you, and I remembered. I'll hand over to William.
Thank you. Oh, I'm in the red chair. It's a little bit like Jackanory. Who remembers that? If you're sitting comfortably, that's what I used to say. Hello, I'm William Telford, and this is I'm going to read a couple of short pieces of short fiction tonight. This is from my collection, How Love Works, published by Waterhair Press, available on Lulu. £7, best £7 you'll spend during this COVID crisis, I'm sure. I'm going to read this one from that. It's very short. This has got a hospital theme, so it's probably appropriate, though all these were written before the current crisis. This is called Exhausted, Thirsty and in Pain. It was a mere two weeks after her 107th birthday that Anna Maria Luisa Italiano dos Santos fell and broke her hip. She woke in a ward at Ospedale delle Innocenti Arrabbiati after having been taken directly there from her fifth-floor retirement flat and put without ceremony under the knife. She was exhausted, thirsty and in pain. The surgery had taken but 37 minutes. Her surgeon, Mr. Geronimo del Piazza del Spagna, was practicing for a shot at the world record. He still needed to shave 3 minutes and 58 seconds of his time. He looked down at her, all wired like a 21st century home entertainment system. "How do you feel?" he said. "Exhausted, thirsty and in pain," Anna Maria Luisa Italiano dos Santos said. "But otherwise?" Anna Maria Luisa Italiano dos Santos shrugged. "There's someone here to see you," the doctor said, and stood to one side. Anna Maria Luisa Italiano dos Santos had been born during the opening salvos of the Spanish Civil War. She was now exhausted, thirsty and in pain during the closing salvos of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In the interim, she'd had 10 children. They'd produced her 25 grandchildren and nearly a century of assorted great and great-great and not-so-great others. They'd all come to visit her. Faces like flowers over a summer meadow. The ward had become a congregation. A queue stretched out into the corridor and down into the theatre where some stragglers were actually assisting with a routine toenail replacement procedure. Flowers and chocolates and copies of TV guide magazines were piled like a pyre. "Tell us," said one offspring, probably, judging by his complexion, a great-grandson. "What have you learned from 107 years and nigh on invincibility?" "Tell us," came a chorus. Anna Maria Luisa Italiano dos Santos asked for her bed to be adjusted, for a sip of water, for a second to catch her breath, and then she said, "Your parents, whatever you think, love you. Others," she swallowed, "might not like you. Someone you love might not love you back. They might hurt you and mean it. They might wear your clothes without even telling you. Kids, even cute ones, can be right little bastards. Work sucks the big one. Bosses are arseholes, even the ones you think are okay. They're the worst. Being good at something ain't easy. Most of you will give up. A few will get proficient. Some will be really good. And then some annoying prick will come along and be better at it than you are and make you wonder why you even bothered in the first place. Most of the time, you'll all fail. Your days will be filled with disappointments. The things you order on Amazon won't even fit. People will tell you you're great, but in reality, you'll get nothing but rejection. You'll get old, then really old. Then one day you'll decide to snoop around in next door's flat and fall and break your hip. You'll wind up in hospital with a woman in the next bed who can't stop talking about her feet. And then you'll die. No one will even give a stuff you ever existed." There was silence. A ton of silence. Then the doctor said with a feeble smile, "She's exhausted, thirsty and in pain." But a little girl, a great-great-grand-something with golden curls and golden skin said, "But our parents, they love us." And another great something, possibly a man, but it was hard to tell because of the crash helmet, said, "And the stuff we order on Amazon, it can be sent back, yeah, if it doesn't fit, right?" The doctor nodded and nodded, and while everyone gave a mighty cheer, he suddenly realised there was a way, after all, of shaving 3 minutes and 58 seconds from the hip repair world record. And he put his head back and laughed, like he was part of a family on a day out. Thank you. It's Art Weekender, so I thought I should read something about art. So this is a short story that was published in Short Fiction, a book came out a few years back, alongside some really quite well-known authors in this book. Alison Moore, who else have we got in here? Frank Scazzari, Osama Amar, and me. Somebody had to bring the tone down. So this is not in my current collection, but actually it was a short story, but it actually is a segment of an unpublished novel I've written called Work. So if there's any publishers out there who feel suitably impressed, do get in touch with me. This is called Il Torre di Verita. I drifted. I should have been thinking about the report. I should have been thinking of finishing the report, even starting the report. I should perhaps have been paying some attention to Giorgio, I should have been paying some attention to Giorgio, to what he was telling me, but I wasn't. I was thinking of Picasso. I was thinking of Seated Nude, of 1925, of the Iberian Sun, of London Rain, of the Tate Gallery. I was thinking of a naked woman fashioned by the world's greatest painter. I was thinking of anything but what was going to go into the report. And then, instantly, I was back in the now. A bulldog clip had struck me right under my left eye. "Ah!" I said, jerking my head back, opening my eyes. "You're not listening, dude," said Giorgio, peering round his screen opposite, but diagonal to mine, his hand still in a post-bulldog clip throwing pose, like he was holding an imaginary cup of Darjeeling. "I was just getting to the good bit." He settled back into his chair. He put his hands behind his head and he continued. "So, I said to the man, goat's cheese with a blue cheese sauce, that's like just too cheesy. In fact," he said, "that's cheese overload." And then he added, "Oh no." What had caused Giorgio to "oh no" was the staccato clitter-clatter of stilettos on parquet as Celeste approached, like that Twister out of Wizard of Oz, from her office. She stopped before me, put her hands on her hips, pursed her lips and said, "What in God's name is that?" Oh, I haven't finished yet. There's loads. Sorry to disappoint you, but there's loads more. I just had to turn the page then. So we got to Celeste pointing and saying, "What in God's name is that?" Celeste was a woman, but not a woman who looked like she'd been portrayed by Picasso. Celeste looked more like she'd been drawn by a 4-year-old using one of those fat marker pens and coloured in orange. She had on skin-tight black dress, which, with her contours, looked like someone had tried to shrink-wrap an explosion. Sorry, I said, blinking. What's what? That, she spat, pointing past me. What is that? I looked over my right shoulder and back at Celeste and said calmly, Il Torre di Verita. It was now Celeste's turn to blink. Come again? Il Torre di Verita, or the Tower of Truth, was a 5-foot-high stack of newspapers, carefully balanced, carefully shaped, tall and narrow, breathtaking and spectacular. It had taken 3 months to build. Like Gustav Eiffel, I'd aimed high and I just kept going. Now it was a skyscraper, a statement. It gave my corner of our densely populated open-plan workspace definition and identity. Plus, I like to think it acted as insulation. Celeste, it emerged, didn't see it as such. I want, she said, adjusting her dress, as her mouth became a snarl, all that gone by the end of today. Got it? What? I said, suddenly bolt upright. Gone? Why? Because, Celeste said, that is a fire hazard. Told you, Giorgio said, shifting himself for a better view, shoving some of the detritus on his desk about. Hey, no, look, I said, it can't be. I mean, fire, you need 3 things, right? Flammable stuff, oxygen, a heat source. Where's the heat source? Celeste quit yanking her dress about and flicked out a finger. I followed its direction. A window, said Giorgio, suddenly nodding slowly. Brilliant. You're kidding, I said. I told him we were in a British provincial city. It was early March. There was a 90% cloud cover. I told him spontaneous combustion was not on our agenda. Celeste told me she didn't care. Fire, she enunciated. Hazard. And then she said, and I want that report on to the fire marshal. Who is the fire marshal, by the way? Giorgio cocked an index finger at me. I gave a nervous smile. Celeste gave me a look, like she just put her foot in a bucket of soup. It was a look that meant she didn't have to do anything other than give a dismissive, pathetic. And then, with drill sergeant precision, she revolved, and I heard the rat-a-tat of high heels on polished wood, each like a gunshot, each sending a shell straight towards my heart. I closed my eyes and felt my temples pulse. When I opened my lids again, I saw a space where Celeste had stood was now filled by Tiffany. Tiffany was new. She was young and new and more like something Picasso might have drawn, only Picasso rarely drew women who frequently stamped their feet and clenched their fists into tight little balls. Right at that moment, Tiffany's hands were clenched into tight little balls, and she said, I just want to say, she stamped her feet in rhythm too, that what you are doing is really irresponsible. Huh? I said. That pile of papers, she said, the words accelerating, is really selfish. Told you, said Giorgio. I told him it could collapse and, write off some kid. I thought of evoking Newton's laws of motion, especially the one about mass at rest needing a good shove to send it all plummeting, but really, what was the use? So I just said, oh, come on, give me a break, there's no kids. No, said Tiffany, with a confidence and purpose I had not previously noticed. You should give me a break. You know that I suffer from a terrible affliction. You know that I've got asthma. I vaguely recalled seeing Tiffany once holding something that looked like an inhaler, but it could have been a bottle of Darling by Kylie Minogue, so I said, what's that got to do with... Mites, she said. My mouth was open, so she just continued, unballing a hand and jabbing a finger. It's okay for you. You don't live in mortal peril. The atmosphere, she turned towards Giorgio and said slowly, the air, to which Giorgio nodded sagely, is what gives you life, but for me it's like really dangerous. My lungs are like the lung equivalent of Basra or something. Excuse me, I said. And now, you've introduced mites into the equation. That's like introducing drones. It's not finished. It's not finished. It's not finished. That's like introducing drones. And that, she indicated it to Il Torre, is like a breeding ground. For drones, said Giorgio, scratching his head. For mites, said Tiffany, her hands now snugly back in their little balls. Now wait, I said, as I loosened my tie and informed them that I may be no entomologist, but I was fairly sure that mites could come up with a more romantic place to get jiggy than a stack of newsprint. What about rats? Clipped in Giorgio. It could be a breeding ground for rats, couldn't it? Do rats cause asthma, Tiff? They do, she said. Rats, I said. Mites? I told them this was Il Torri we were discussing, not the 10 plagues of Egypt. Geez, I said, next you'll be blaming the tower for an epidemic of boils and the death of the firstborn. I, said Tiffany stiffly, am an only child, and then she stamped her foot and walked off briskly towards her desk, muttering something about insecticide and ventricles. About 10 minutes later I was starting to think about starting the report when I heard the clatter of heels. Hello, Celeste, I said, without turning or looking up from my screen. Tiffany's just been in my office, she said, and she's used up all my Kleenex. OK, I said, I'll take it down. Happy? You will, she said, and not by the end of today, right now. There's a man coming up and he's bringing a trolley. It was at this instant I sort of lost it. I told Celeste what I thought, and what I thought was that I wouldn't mind decommissioning Il Torre, provided it was fair. Fair? Said Celeste, tugging on a rogue brass strap. What do you mean, fair? I told her to look around. I told her to start with Giorgio's desk. It's like New Orleans post-Katrina, I said. I told her to also take a peek at Trixie's workstation. It's covered in ornaments, all in the shape of sheep, and Dave's festooned in mugs. And how come Camilla's allowed pot plants? And I said, and what's with Duncan and his shrine to Buffy? And Spencer? Spencer hums like Phil Collins tunes, like all day long. And so on and so forth. After I'd stopped, after I'd exhausted my complaining, Celeste, shifting about in her dress like a snake about a shed, said, you have a point, and then she added, when the trolley man gets here, I want all that crap gone, Giorgio. Once Celeste had vanished, Giorgio pushed aside a pile of something that might once have contained foodstuffs and said, you know, where the hell does she get off telling you to bin the tower? I mean, it's not like you're doing her any harm. Yeah, well, I said, your desk's not so bad either. So tell me, said Giorgio, unwrapping a Mars bar, why'd you build it? It was 1968 and I was in central London, more precisely Millbank by the river, even more precisely the Tate Gallery. I was there with my dad, and my dad was there on account of it being raining outside and all the Lions' corner houses being busy. I was standing in front of a painting. I was standing in front of Seated Nude by Pablo Picasso. And what I was standing in front of was a jumble of blocks and bricks and weirdo geometric shapes, all at angles athwart, like they were shoved together, like there was no plan, no purpose, some light, some dark, tans and fawns, shades of grey. And suddenly, out of the chaos, out of the confusion, like the way the world solidifies into its own shapes and angles, its density, out of the murk each dawn, arose from the backdrop a woman. Wow, I said. Wow, my dad said also. Picture of some bricks, bloody brilliant. He sniffed. Come on, son, we're leaving. We walked down the gallery steps and all the way to Trafalgar Square to the National Gallery, where my dad said we'd see proper art, which meant pictures featuring ships and horses. And as we ascended the gallery steps, the square spread out before us, slick and shimmering in the rain. All the granite lions, all looking at us, pointless and proud. My dad said, I blame the Beatles. And he did. Dad blamed the Beatles for everything. For long hair, for short hair, for youths in caftans, for youths in braces. He blamed the Beatles for noisy motor scooters and noisier music, for loss of the empire, devaluation of the pound. Dad blamed the Beatles for women that looked like men, and men that looked like women, and women that looked like piles of bricks. Even though Seated Nude and Cubism in general was born some 20-odd years before any of the Fab Four blinked into the Merseyside sunlight. I thought about all this as I sat back at my desk, Il Torre to my right, the unwritten report in front. With my eyes closed, I drifted. I saw Dad on those gallery steps. It was raining, but Dad was beneath an umbrella lofted by George Harrison. Meanwhile, Celeste was waltzing with Picasso, while Lennon and McCartney played a selection from Sgt. Pepper on Tiffany's inhaler. And Ringo was shaking me vigorously and yelling into my ear, wake up, for Christ's sake. Can't you smell burning? And the crazy thing was, he was yelling this with Giorgio's voice. Thank you. That really is the end. Thank you. You can clap, please clap. Thank you. That's well, it was this art. Well, I must have had a lot of practice, one-handed. Yes, but yeah. Thank you very much. Enjoyed that, and welcome to Art Weekender. Who am I passing over to now? Pete.
Yeah, I'm getting up from my cramped condition on the floor, social distancing by 5 miles. Yeah, thanks, Boris, for everything you give us, all the greatness you give Britain. Say no more. I just, yeah. Do I get a full round of applause for thanking Boris for giving us a great Britain? You know, a Britain full of politeness and beautiful things, and you know, we're going to have all these neighbours. I'm just going to wait for everyone dives in to get a bit of food, because we did a really lovely buffet for everyone, because we love our artists. Yeah. And because Boris, I love Boris, I will read a poem called "This Is Not a Drill." We're all going to do like one more each before we close off, and then we'll finish it off with Hippie, with something a bit musical. So this will be my one I would do. It's called "This Is Not a Drill." This was done during lockdown, and this is exactly how I felt and what happened during lockdown. And I would dedicate it to the great man himself, Boris Johnson. I hope he leaves soon. Right, this is not a drill. Liddles and tin pots and egg cartons and endless drilling like an echo drilling in my head. Eco warrior queen gone mad. Every day running on the spot, and waving on the spot. Headphones on, Alanis Morissette. Is it really a jagged little pill, or head like a hole? The birds start to sing, but I can't make out their song, 'cause all I can hear is a drill, a drill in my head, a drill in my head. She picks up 40 hanging baskets and wall baskets to pass the time. Endless twitching of curtains and watching neighbours and finds on the spot. Hysteria, lockdown and isolation. Like a Jack Nicholson sketch and typewriter in hand, writing the very magical words, drill in my head! Why she plays Ghost Town by the Specials over and over again, like a record spinning out of control. Why my neighbour goes, will she ever stop playing the Specials? But hey, keep up the Dunkirk spirit. She's reading a book. Is it Lady or something, Lover? Pleasure noises wake up the silent street at 3 a.m. There's endless diet of sex, drilling and gardening. I think I'll put the bloody kettle on for another cup of tea. It seems to keep me sane as the lunatics have taken over the asylum. She makes me write this poem as spoken words of madness. I'm not sure if this is real or illusion or dream. Either way, I better fulfill her fantasies again. Put the bloody kettle on, please. I cook myself another egg on toast. I read Brian Hebman's poem, Sick of It All, which he dedicated to me on Union Street the other day. Blank faces stare, disposable teens zooming out through their diet cards and diet debt cards. Tinder will have to wait, I'm afraid. Sex on hold, social media whores, wank another day, fake news and pretend friends that never really exist. It's better to be alone and have a coffee with a friend. Social distancing is my new bitch. George Orwell on Heat, Extinction Rebellion on pause. Is a brave new world and Confederate flags on high, but I do miss a poem in the imperfect fresh air. It smells like teen spirit, another genocide maniac who forces lockdown, shoot to kill. But I grow another flower, please. The junkie screams and knocks on the doors looking for a fix. Forgotten voices of liberty drowned out by fits of hysteria, waving gun magic like the magicians of old. Everything is repackaged, recycled like Star Wars the pre-sequel. Nothing original. I better tune in than turn out to the sounds of clapping for a crippled NHS. A third world disposable nation sinking like the Titanic, but everyone loves the sequel. Will Rose get to ride Jack's cock again? I'll pass you on to Gabby Marcus Temple. She's just finding sight. I feel like the butler again. I am the butler. Boris Johnson's new job for me, the butler of the nation.
Nation's butler, Mr. Pete Davey. Right, I'm just going to do a bit of a quick plug for some people. Now I've remembered we have to say thank you to our friends at Nudge Community Builders for our very large umbrella, which might keep us dry if we need it, and we need to thank the Warehouse Leadworks just down the road for our lighting. There are shows in the Plot and the Clipper on Union Street by Nudge Community Builders, and the Warehouse have a show for the Weekender, so get down and see those tomorrow if you can. And good stuff in Ocean Studios. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. Might be good. I'm going to read a piece called Stonehouse, which is a village in Dorset where I used to live. For the first Weekender, about 5 years ago, I put an installation on the back gate of this house where I used to live, and Pete and Chi now live here, and Chi has done the most amazing mural with some of her poetry on the back gate. So if you're passing by this area, come and take a look, because it's staying there. So this is written in the style of a fairy tale. Once upon a time, an immoderately sized princess lived in a tiny metal palace on top of quite a large hill, which belonged to a giant. The hill was very beautiful, with flowers flowering and butterflies fluttering by all over the place, and people came from far and wide to admire the giant, with his smooth white arms and club the length of the whole village. The woods at the bottom of the hill sprang up from soft blue clay, and the princess would ask her groom to scoop some up for her every day as she walked past holding his hand. Then she'd make bowls for all the people of the village, building them from long wobbling worms of clay as she rolled out on the floor. She made large bowls and small bowls, smooth bowls and rough bowls, thick bowls and thin bowls, shiny bowls and dull bowls, special bowls and bowls for every day. However, as is so often the case in these stories, the villagers were a thick-headed, ungrateful lot, and so whenever they were horrible to her, she'd smash all the bowls on their doltish heads and go off to draw a picture or run over the hills with her dog. The dog was a huge, fierce-looking beast, with great slavering jaws and a long, tufted tail. Terrifying to look upon, he had raised the princess from infancy. He slept on her bed and watched her eat each bite of every meal with his huge chocolate love eyes. But there was someone else who ruled in the tiny metal palace on top of the giant's hill, and unfortunately for all concerned, that person was a wicked queen. She had stolen the little princess away from her family when she was a tiny creature, and would never let them call her on the tin and string telephone she had made with her groom. That wicked queen was so frightened that the princess's family would find her and steal her back again that she constantly moved her from one place to another, sending the little princess to the sea, and then the mountains, then the city, then the moors. She got so confused that she would have been lost at school, had there been time for her to go to one long enough to learn anything. But the little princess didn't mind all that too much. At first she felt alone and missed her family or the friends she'd made on a brief sojourn in one place or another, but then she grew used to being alone, and always, of course, had her towering, shadowy dog. What she feared, really feared, kept one ear cocked for each night as she curled around the dog in the dark, was the wicked queen's sharp tongue. The trouble there was that the wicked queen was once very beautiful, and everyone had loved her. She'd had more money than hairs on her head, and had travelled the world, with men falling at her sandy bare feet as she trailed her way along. Everyone else looked dull and ugly in comparison to her, and she laughed to see their bulging bodies crammed into their bathing costumes, the men the other women chased, their fine, frizzled hair. Of course they all hated her, but she didn't care. She just took their men and cackled in their bloated faces. Pretty soon the women lost their patience with her, and then the men did too, once she'd left them scarred and bereft in her wake. They began to whisper and everyone knows that whispering is one of the most dangerous things in the world. They called her stupid. Airhead, they called her. Vacuous, that was one of the words they used. And once, just once, on the far frozen heights of a northern hill, no better than she ought to be. She spent so long puzzling that one out that people thought she really was stupid, as she could think of nothing else. After a while, people also began to say she looked old. She looked old, they said, and was above herself. She put on airs and graces. She began to puzzle over these things more and more, so much so that, in the end, she really did become stupid. She forgot everything she had learned, all the beautiful languages which tripped so melodically off the tongue, the stories she could enthrall you with, the things which were fun and the things which were important. She began to forget, and at that point quite a large part of her dissolved, no longer swimming in gilded oceans, but now swimming in dream wine and moon wine, blackberry sparkle and hedgerow gin. One night she drank so much as she dozed before the fire that she was awoken by the smell of sizzling meat, only to realise that her leg had slipped and was wreathed in blurry flames before her eyes. The groom raced in and put it out, but from that day on her leg was as twisted and blackened as her cruel heart. She became more and more angry about the things that people said to her. Her, of all people, so beautiful, so striking and tall. Now her long golden hair was all gone, and her skin sagged where once it had gleamed. The princess was not the most beautiful child. Tall and big for her age, she could almost understand how the giant felt, looming over the whole village like that. The wicked queen noticed her one day gazing at the giant, and began to laugh and laugh. "Why are you laughing?" the little girl asked, looking up at the queen with large blue eyes. "Oh, nothing, nothing," replied the queen. "I couldn't possibly tell you." "That's all right, then," said the princess, turning to climb the hill. "It's just that you're so fat," cried the wicked queen after her. So fat. I was never fat at your age. Just a skinny little shrimp. They used to say you couldn't see me if I turned sideways." The little princess huddled down, drawing circles in the dust with a long stick. "You're S-shaped," shrieked the queen. "Your tummy sticks out there, like so, and your bottom at the other end, like so, and it makes an S. You're very beautiful," she sniggered. "Just like the shape a Victorian lady used to be. But your waist isn't small enough to be a Victorian lady. Now, when I was young and beautiful, my waist was the size of—" And so it went on. Day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, second after second, on and on and on and on. But when the little princess went to bed, and she always went as early as she could, unless it was summer and she could stay out in the fields, the queen grew bored and indolent and angry, glugging away at rosehip vodka and blueberry liqueurs. So then she'd turn her attention to the groom. "Dullard!" she would scream. "Freak! Low-born pustule!" and she would fling her empty glass at his head. The groom was well used to such tirades, and as time went on, he began to believe all the horrid things she flung at him each night. So he ground his rotten teeth together, and swept up all the glass, wiped up the spilled liquor with a grim grey face and a sigh. Night after night, hour after hour, minute after minute, second after second, on and on and on and on. But some nights, when the moon was lost and darkness glimmered over the dozing bones of the giant, he would mumble and mutter as he wiped it up. His orangey brown eyes would flash with rage. His twitching jaw would clench. Then the wicked queen's shrieks turned into screams. Her gibes became cries of terror. And then afterwards he would walk the hills for hours alone. Those were the nights when he drank alongside her, thistledown whiskey to scourge his pains, and homemade chili pepper brandy, which burnt the throat like acid. The wind howled, and the rain dinked against the roof of the tiny metal palace, which shook and groaned to the wicked queen's screams and the lumbering crescendo of the drunken groom's insults and threats. The little princess curled up beneath her dog's warm shanks as the palace rattled and the wind rose. Over the wind and the rain, over the groaning of the trees and the scraping of metal on metal, she heard the hillside begin to stir. First a dull thudding, as vast chalk-dusted elbows, knees, then feet hit the ground. Then a deep, scraping rasp, as the giant picked up his club. The inebriated groom paused and listened, slapping down the screeching queen, eyes glaring orange in a thunderously dark face. The princess listened to each whimper, each rattle and clink. Then she ran. Throwing open the door of the metal palace in her thin cotton nightgown, she fled. On and on and on and on she ran, into the black night, the grass so greenly wet and cold on bare, slippery feet. Behind her she heard a drunken roar of fear from a distorted face. Behind her she heard a strangulated screech of terror emerge from weakened flesh. Behind her she heard the drumming rain. Behind her the wind. The next morning the giant was one man no longer. He became a man and a girl and a dog, a smooth white girl and an enormous hound with grass-tufted fur. They lie there on a large hill, where you can go and see them today, under a rusted metal heap, which was once a palace.
Cleaning the mic for social distancing reasons. Yeah, that is the way we're in a bubble, and she's like my sister, so nothing really going on there. Do you mean? Right. Yep. Thank you. Right. I will pass you on to our beloved and wonderful Matt Thomas. Just cleaned it. Social distancing.
All these bubbles, all these talk of bubbles. Pardon me. A great number of years ago, I used to read in Seattle in poetry slams and other open mic nights and that sort of thing. And I sort of did other things for quite a number of years and wrote a little bit, but not a lot. And then a few years ago, not as far back as all that, but still a few years ago, I was acquainted with a lovely woman named Catherine who said to me, "You have to come and take part in this literary event that I'm putting together." And she hosted a poetry and flash fiction competition over in Devonport. And that is how I met William, because William helped Catherine put that on. And I read a piece of flash fiction in that, and somehow came away with an award, which was remarkable, because it was a good story. This is not that story. This is another story. The theme of that event was music. So I wrote a couple of pieces. The piece that I read in the competition was from days when I used to do some touring and things. And this is another piece, which I think I also read on that night, but I very rarely trot this out. But I thought we might go down memory lane. William, back to that gig. He sat on the porch. While he sat, he looked. Across the street, down the end of a long alley, at the place where the horizon would be if there was one, the city disappeared in the blinding white of late summer. He imagined he could smell the heat. Asphalt in the parking lot of the insurance building next door would be soft. He could hear a leaf blower, a dog, semis downshifting on the interstate to make the dogleg just before the tunnel, and a radio. The song playing was from an album he knew well. It was the first cassette tape he bought with his own money in 1977. He wondered how often the songs from that album got played on the radio every day. Often, he suspected. There were a lot of radio stations in the country, and it was a popular song. He then wondered about the size of the royalty checks connected to all those radio plays. He lit a cigarette and wondered if it would be worth going in tomorrow. Probably not, but he probably would. After work a couple of weeks earlier, a few Boilermakers into the evening, a friend had asked him how he got his name. After some thought, he had to confess he didn't actually know. It was an odd name, he admitted. He was aware of that. It was a name that drew attention to itself, a name that almost required an intriguing backstory. He had at times made things up. He was named after a silent film star, or the street his grandparents lived on when they were first married, or a misunderstood Gothic sculptor who took his own life by drinking poison. The name, odd as it was something he had always just accepted. He had never actually asked why he was given it, and no one involved in the decision to bequeath it to him had ever offered an explanation. He wondered why he'd never been curious about it. Now that he thought he might be, all the people who knew were dead, so the truth of it was gone. He wondered if that mattered. The dog had stopped. The horizon continued to not appear. The sun continued to bleach the sky, and the city continued to shimmer and melt. A kid, who probably should have been in school, went past on a skateboard. He noticed, some way down the alley, a mattress leaning against a hurricane fence. There was a diamond pattern on it, and stains. He thought it had been there for some time, but he wasn't sure. He lit a fresh cigarette with the end of the one he was smoking, closed his eyes, leaned back against the front of the house. The floorboards of the porch creaked under his weight. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm back. It's me, William Telford, author of How Love Works by Waterhead Press. Please buy it. It's on Lulu, only £7. Very best money you're going to spend during this pandemic, I'm sure. I keep saying that. There's 27 stories in here, so I've only read 2 out of it tonight, so that's 25 more you've got to enjoy if you buy it. I'm going to stop doing the adverts now, but please buy it. So it's been tough these last few months. This one, literature's art, isn't it? So this one's about books. And it's called Soulless. Dupree was lounging on the little sofa thing near the classics section. He was on page 815 of Anna Karenina when a library staff woman strode up to him, pointed and said, "Right, Buster, we know what you've been doing." "Could you elucidate?" said Dupree, because he'd been reading a lot of books. "Indubitably," said the library staff woman, because she'd also was well read. "We know that you've been living in here." Dupree looked up from page 815 of Anna Karenina and, blinking like he was in a smoke-filled room, stammered, "What exposed me? Was it the soap and toothpaste in the men's WC?" "It was the tent," said the library staff woman, pointing to the one-person pop-up planted by Health and Well-being. "So, time to beat it." Dupree decided it was time now to quote Cicero. He told the library staff woman that the venerable Roman philosopher had said that a room without books was like a body without a soul. And then he added that he, Dupree, loved books so much he didn't want to just live in a room full of them, but in a building full of them. He didn't say he had a large student loan to pay off, no job, and had fallen out of his mum because he was always stinking out of the house for experimental cooking. "It's nothing personal," said the library staff woman. "The whole library's closing. Cutbacks." What? Stammered Dupree. "But you can't. I mean, where are people going to go for education, edification, enlightenment, for succour and cultural sustenance? Plus, I'm only 2 pages off the end of Anna Karenina." "The whole thing's going online," the woman said. But you can't live your life online," said Dupree, still blinking. "Really?" the woman said, lifting the book from Dupree's hands and gently easing him up off the sofa. "Try telling that to my ex-husband. Turned out he was also an 18-year-old Italian exchange student called Isabella Rosella." She led Dupree to the exit and gently pushed him out. He heard the door click behind him and stood looking at a world grey and cold and noisy and soulless, It was full of ignorance, insouciance, arrogance, and apart from that, it was pretty grim. And no one could tell him what happened on the last 2 pages of Anna Karenina. Thank you.
I'd like to give a warm thank you to Queen Chi. Give her a clap for her performance tonight. The legendary Matt Thomas, who we love to bits. William Terford, who I adore. Not in that way, but I do adore. And thanks to Gabby, and to the butler of the nation, Slay McGogh. And we're going to finish the evening off, not in Boris Johnson's bathroom. Don't want to go there. Really don't want to see him in his underwear. But we're going to finish the evening off with Gabby, Marcus Temple, and Hippie. And we'll pass you to Gabby in a second. Just look, Boris Johnson.
Stop wiping it with bubbles, you weirdo. Yeah, Hippie's just setting it up now. We're going to stream a video sound art piece, which has been a while ago, which is, it's based on environmental issues regarding noise pollution, and it creates a little bit of noise pollution itself, just to get the idea across. Hippie's just giving me a look now. Do you want to put it on so I can stop talking, or are you still sorting stuff out? Oh, it's coming any minute now.